Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our daily Bible devotion. We are in Leviticus chapter 24 this morning. It's a little short, but it's got a lot of good stuff in there. So it starts out with some things in the tabernacle, especially the lamp and the uh, bread of the testimony, table of bread. So the lamp, the sevenfold lamp that was in the tent of meeting, that is the tabernacle proper, the main tent, the holy place, is where that lamp resides. And so if you were to walk in this way, and then it would be on the bottom. So let's just say if north is up, it would be the lamp would be on the south side. The table would be on the north side, and the incense would be on the east side by the veil. So you come in on the west side. That's just if you were to look at it from that direction. Just make it simple. And the lamp needed to run all the time. And so God wanted it to be beaten from pure olive oil. So olive oil was what was used to light the lamp. And so it must be done, you know, from evening to morning. So the priest had the job to make sure that thing was filled. And the second part was the table of bread. Fine flour loaves that are baked with a certain amount of flour for each loaf. Put in 2 stacks of 6, one for each of the 12 tribes, with frankincense put on each loaf. And this was the bread of the tabernacle, and that the priest would eat it in the holy place, like you would eat it in the tent of meeting. That was not to go outside. And this is just how God wanted his worship. This is how he brought people into faithfulness with him, right? To be holy in his midst, because God is holy. We're not. So we have to follow certain rules in order to be holy and remain holy with him. And it was the priest's job to carry this out, all right? Now, the fun parts. Punishments for blasphemy, all right? Now, God gives an example of what happened. Right? An Israelite woman married to an Egyptian man that had a son, and then just another Israelite person. Now, here's where God doesn't show partiality. He doesn't really care where you come from, but this is what happened when you had mixed cultures. All right? So, the Israelite's son, all right, the Israelite woman's son blasphemed God's name, the name as it's called, right, Yahweh, and cursed. Now, blasphemy had its own punishments, but he also cursed. Now, blasphemy, in one sense, is using the name of God in a manner in which he has not directed you to use it. So this is what made, throughout the generations of Israel, very hesitant about using God's name, period. Right? When you're talking about his proper name, like I am, Yahweh, they just wouldn't use it. Right? They Elohim it up, right? And just call him God, because they didn't want to use his name flippantly, incorrectly. They didn't want to take the chance. But here's this guy, and not only does he blaspheme the name of God, but he curses, right? Now, the curse could be the blasphemy. Now, it's different from what we think, right? When we think cursed, like he swore, he said derogatory, you know, bad words, like a bad word, a cuss word, right? Um, that's not what he did. What he did was invoke by words like it'd be somebody use like a magical incantation, right? And so people thought back in the day, and probably still do today, that if you say some magical incantation, then you're obligating, forcing that deity to act, right? And what this guy did was do that, said something, some magical whatever, boogie boogie, and was trying to force the God of hosts, the God of everything, Yahweh, to act on his behalf to probably strike down the person he was fighting. That's a no-no. All right, you cannot say words to force God to do anything. He's God, right? It doesn't work that way. And to think that you have that kind of authority, that kind of power over the creator of everything is just insanity. And God doesn't stand for it. He's like, I am not one of your pagan, nonsense, mythical, of the mind God that y'all came up with. I'm the one true, actual God of everything. And I don't work that way. That's not how this relationship works. And so they took him into custody and sought what God wanted to do, which is the right thing to do, right? They did it the right way. They didn't just act on God's behalf without consulting God. They went to God, consulted with God, and God spoke the punishment. He's like, I don't care if you're native. I don't care if you're an Israelite. I don't care if you're a sojourner. I don't care if you're a slave. I don't care who you are. If you come into the community of God, if you come in the midst of his people and break his laws, you suffer his punishments. It's that simple. And the punishment for that was to be taken outside the camp, outside of God's people, to have everybody lay their hands on him, and then to stone him to death. Right? So all his sin is upon his head. And then they stoned him to death. And that's what was the punishment for blaspheming and cursing, invoking curses through blasphemy, right? Using God's name in a way that he hasn't directed you to use it, especially to cause harm to someone else that you disagree with by some pagan, nonsense, mythical incantation. So it cost him his life, right? And God set down some more rules. The eye for an eye, right? If you take a human life, you shall surely be put to death, right? If you take an animal's life, you got to make it right. You got to pay some money, make them whole, right? Kind of like a tort claim today. You got to make them whole. But if you injure somebody, right, this is where it comes from. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Whatever injury he has given a person shall be given to him. Right, the original eye for eye, right? That curbs behavior. Because if I break somebody's arm, guess what? They're going to break my arm in the same way that I broke that person's arm. So you get to suffer the same injury. Well, I tell you what, if that's the rule and everybody knows it and they actually enforce it, that's going to curb a lot of the nonsense pretty fast. If you murder someone, guess what? You get murdered. Right? Except it's not murder, it's righteousness, because that's what God commands. So they take this guy outside the camp and they stone him to death. You know, some people think that this is unfair. Some people think that God is too severe. Well, he's God and he makes the rules. He's just. And if you can't see the justice in it, the problem's with you, not with God. You know, and it's not about free speech, right? We make choices. The choices have consequences. And that's my soapbox, guys. We all make choices every day. And we think that there's no consequences for our actions. We think that we can just do whatever we want. And and we can just, you know, we have this overinflated sense of entitlement. It doesn't work that way, right? We live in a fallen world with fallen people who do fallen things. And you think that somebody else has to be better than you, not to sink to your level? It's lunacy to me, the sense of entitlement today. And I'm going to give the example. I'm going to bring it up, and this can make people mad or whatever, but I don't really care. You look at what happened recently in Minnesota, and where a lady used her car to interfere with ICE operations. For better or for worse. I don't really care how, why, whatever. It doesn't matter. She made the conscious effort to interfere. She made the choice, knowing the response that she was going to incur. She knew that they were not going to be polite with her at all. At a bare minimum, right? They were going to rip her out of her car and detain her and do whatever because of everybody's actions previously, right? By everybody else's actions, they're already on high alert. And here's the thing: you don't have to like it, but there are laws in the country. We are governed by a system of laws. And if you break those laws, there are consequences. You made the choice. You have to, if you play the game, don't get mad if you play the game, right? And it doesn't, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much you contribute to society. If you don't follow the rules and they catch you, you can't get mad. I mean, you can get mad, but it's irrelevant, right? You didn't do it the way that you were supposed to do it. And so if you get arrested for being here illegally, get over it. You played the game. They caught you, right? I don't understand the sense of entitlement. We have a lot of freedom in this country. I mean, we have a great deal of freedom. And this lady, knowing how everything is so ramped up and amped up, made poor choices. And it ended up costing her life. I'm not saying that the officer that shot her was right. I'm not saying that at all. I haven't looked at all the facts. But that individual, that officer, was given certain rights that the rest of us don't have in order to carry out the job. And you put yourself in a situation that you had no business being in. And you paid dearly for it. This lady paid with her life. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but she made the choice to interfere, and it cost her life. Right? There are choices, there are consequences for the choices we make in life, for everything. Everything. And you can't get mad at people when you're at fault. She had no business being there. She decided she was entitled to do whatever she wanted to do. And she found out the hard way that you're not. Right? I don't sit there and interfere with a space launch. Right? I don't sit there and interfere with surgery. I don't just bust into a surgical room because I feel like I can, because I need to ask somebody a question or I don't agree with the surgery, right? You put everybody else's lives at risk. And I teach my kids, you make stupid choices, or you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And it's what this lady did, for better or for worse, right or wrong. She shouldn't. There's a time and place to engage, and that wasn't it. That's what God's doing in the Old Testament, and that's what He does today. Right? He sets a standard for how we should conduct ourselves. There's a right way to do something, and there's a wrong way to do something. In certain times, when you do certain things, it costs you your life. You forfeit your right to be here, this side of heaven. Everybody lives forever. Just depends on where. You only get so much time this side of heaven. But you, your soul, live forever. It just depends in heaven or away from God. That's it. And when we forget the fear of the Lord, this is what happens. This is the result. People that think that they are entitled to do anything they want. Well, in the secular world, it doesn't work that way, and it really doesn't work that way when you stand before God. And so you can't get, you can get angry and throw a fit all you want. God doesn't care. He just does not care. He gives you a standard, and He calls us all to live by it. That's what you see in this. If you fail to live by the standard, there are consequences for the choices we make. And we need to learn that lesson, not just with God, but for our everyday life. And if we could actually love God with our heart, soul, and mind, and love our neighbor as ourselves, we would solve a lot of problems in this world. But we just don't want to do it. People just don't want to do it. And this is the result. Pain and suffering. That's the result. Anger, bitterment, resentment, all the things that Satan wants. And we're just handing it to him on a silver platter. So think before you do. Think before you speak. All right? We could solve a lot of problems if we would just do that. All right? Play out the scenario in your head. Maybe not such a good idea. Maybe I'll calm down. Maybe I'll figure a different way to do it. All right? We could get a lot more done. That's it. That's my soapbox. But it's very applicable for our reading today. Right? God has standards. Right? And he expects us, commands us to live by them. And when we don't blame Him. I went way too long, but it's something that needed to be said. So let's say a prayer. Heavenly Father, thank You for today. Thank You for Your standard. You give us standards because You love us. You want what's best for us. You want us to live in peace. You want us to solve our problems with You. When we do things ourselves and we cut You out, tragedy happens. Pain and suffering happen. The world's hard enough it is on its own. Help us to not make it harder. Help us to say a prayer. Help us to seek You before we do anything. Help us to think before we act or speak. Forgive us when we fall short. Give us opportunities to make it right. And just be with all those who suffer. Be with the families. Be with everyone because of our poor choices. Be with us. Carry us. Help us to see the right way to live. To seek You in all things. Help us to glorify You every day. We ask this and thank You in the name of Your Son, Jesus. Amen. That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back tomorrow with chapter 25. Until then, have a great day and God bless.